All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mack, Play Fast Football. Hopefully, you guys can join me on this Thursday night. We actually have a um, professional day tomorrow, so no students on campus, but teachers have to go in the morning. So, figured this would be a good time to get on, talk about some of the things that listened to last week at the Nike Clinic. This week, I did a video on tempo offense, and then today I just did a video on building a tempo defense. If that is a thing, I'm not really sure if that's how people look at it. I think people look at it as defending tempo offenses, but the point of the video was to say, when you look at tempo offenses, so the last probably 12, 14 years or so, probably going all the way back to 2005, we started doing some things on wristbands and trying to play a little bit faster. But I would say probably the last 12 to 14 years, we really concentrated on being a hurry up, no huddle team, if you would, a tempo team. I don't think we ever necessarily played as fast as we would have liked to, and I'll give my opinion on why with some of those things. But today's video was talking about, I think a lot of people have talked about defending tempo offenses and the things that you do in practice and working multiple scout groups and trying to get as many reps as possible and get guys to line up. And my thing was, if we study both sides of the ball and we sit through tempo offensive talks, and we hear not only the philosophy behind it, but we hear how they talk about operating procedures, communication, movement players, and things that they're trying to do to. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Everything is good on my end. I hope everything is good on your end. So when you look at all good, nice. When you look at the tempo world on offense, there is always there's always a method to the madness. I don't think it's something a lot of people look at it sometimes as, a trend, a fad, whatever it may be. Obviously, it's been around for a while, but when you really study the good ones, and I had a chance this past week at Orlando Nike, Alex Golish was there, who was with Josh Heupel, and now he's head coach at USF, and Lane Kiffin was there, and Mike Norvell was there, and Dino Babers was there, and when you hear them talk, and they talk from the offensive side, and if you've been an offensive guy that's tried to be tempo, hurry up, no huddle, however you want to look at it, we always look at the philosophical approach to it and say, okay, how do we have to change practice? How do we have to change communication? What are the things we're trying to do to play at that pace? What are the advantages of playing at that pace? What are we trying to do to the defense? And now in my current role, I'm just a defensive coordinator, right? So I don't have to worry about offense. I don't have to worry about calling offensive plays. I can just worry about my side of the ball. So, over the last however many, like I said, 15, 20 years, whatever it's been, we've had to defend tempo offenses. We've had to, have a system in place that is ready and prepared to defend tempo offenses. But when I did the video today, my point behind the video was, well, what if we took the same approach on defense? What if we built what we would like to think is a quote unquote tempo defense, and how we practice, how we communicate, using hybrid players, everything behind our philosophy. Because I would think, to me, it's kind of the same theory. If we can defend tempo offenses, and if we take that approach first, it's much easier to play faster and teach slower than it is to play slower and teach faster. So in other words, on offense, it was always one of those deals. Well, if we can play with tempo, we can always slow down. But if we play in a huddle world, when it comes time to having to go faster, I think it's a lot more difficult to do. So I think tempo teams that understand how to play fast, hurry up, no huddle, I think it's a lot easier for them to slow down when they want to, right? Because they're on offense. than it is for them for base teams to speed up. So if we took the same approach on defense and we said, hey, look, if we approach this from we are defending tempo first, all right, and let's not worry right now about the structures that we're defending, because as a defensive unit, we're always going to prepare to defend structures, right? So we're going to have our 21 plan, and we're going to have our 2 remove plan, and we're going to have our 3-by-1 plan, and we're going to have our empty plan. So on the defensive side of the ball, we're always going to be able, or at least prepared to defend those structures, right? So what if we started from day one, early on, saying that we are going to build a tempo defense that is prepared to play tempo offenses, and when offenses slow down or huddle or do those things, it should be easier for us to slow down, right? So if we can approach our defense in that manner and be ready to defend, hurry up, no huddle, rapid, chaotic tempo, if we can start there, then when teams huddle, it should be easier for us to go backwards, right? It's no different than offense. And I think where sometimes I think where the confusion is offense dictates everything, right? They dictate the pace, they dictate the formation, they make the play call. Defense seems to be more reactionary in nature. Obviously there's aggressive defenses, attacking defenses. Yeah, I get all that, but we still have to react to what the offense is doing, right? We don't call anything on defense. That can only be, that's either Zach McGee, Joe Everett. That's got to be an old school. Anybody that says fees has got to be an old school Ridgeview. Yeah, we haven't huddled either, Coach Gardner. I get that. I get I don't think a lot of defenses huddle anymore. I knew it had to be you, Zach. It's got to be. Oh, and Austin Mixon. This is so for you guys that are in this group right now, 2 or 3 of the guys that are in this conversation are players that I coached in 2004, 5, 6, somewhere along those lines. One of the guys actually coached with me, trying to convince him to get back into football. But he's in the quote unquote business world, if you want to look at it that way, working a real job, if you want to talk about it that way. But one of the things that we look at, and Coach Gardner, you bring a great point. We haven't huddled in years on defense either, right? Our communication has been the same for a long time. But the premise of pushing it to another level to defend tempo offenses. So the idea behind saying, look, we want to start this way first. Everything we do, from how we practice, the reps we're trying to get, our operating procedure, our system of communication, how we break our calls down into more simplistic 1 or 2 word calls. Yes, eyes is the big one. I did a video today, Austin, and I let everybody know that to this day, you will still hear me screaming eyes, because it's something that we have to teach, right? Guys don't. Yeah, I agree with you, Coach Gardner. I think philosophically, that's everything we do, and that's one of the things when you talk to tempo people. Alex Golish was talking about it with Tennessee and what he's going to do at USF, and Lane was talking. It becomes how you kind of do everything. It's how your program does everything that you want to do. Like, you're constantly working at that tempo. It's just, to me, philosophically, there always seems like such a more systemic approach to tempo offense. And then on defense, when we have to defend it, it's kind of like, all right, that week, let's do these things in practice. Let's work 2 huddles. Let's work this. Like, it just seems to me like there's always a systemic approach to what the offense is doing to be no huddle, hurry up tempo. And on defense, it's still, even philosophically, I feel like sometimes we're reactionary. So I think the defensive game has come so far with check with me and coverages based on formations, and not just coming out and saying, hey, cover 3, cover 2, being able to let your kids have a menu that they can choose from and say, all right, we got 2 removed. Here's the choices. We got 3-by-1 removed. Here's the choices. We got empty. Here's the choices. We got a single receiver. Here's the menu. Here's the things game plan wise we can call. Here's what we call when 7's the single. Here's what we call when 80's the single. Here's what we call when 15's a single, right? Going through your game plan, your film, and all those other great deals, right? So defense has come so far to me. Split field coverage, check with me defense. The game evolves all the time. Maybe offense dictates the changes and then defense reacts and catches up, however you want to look at it, right? But the biggest point of emphasis for me is maybe we should approach this on defense from a different standpoint. Maybe we should teach tempo first. Maybe we should teach how to defend it first and then slow down, which should be easier to do, right? So if we get a team that's going to huddle, shift, motion, trade, whatever, it should be easier for us to slow down and now worry about we can get more exotic. We can, present different looks. Because as an offense, that was always the number one deal. Play fast first, slow down second. It's easier to change and go slower, right? 4-minute offense. We can do that at any time. If we're a no huddle team that communicates a certain way, well, if I don't give you the call for the first 15 seconds and you stand there, now most of my guys would stare at me like, Coach, what are we doing? But I can control that. I cannot give you a call for the first 15 seconds, and that's how I control the clock, right? Because offense dictates that. But for me, let me look back at some of the things. Practice fast as hell. Let the kids feel tempo. Let the kids experience quick hit. Buzzword coaching. Yeah, correction in meetings, correction on film. We've actually looked at, with Coach Krause right now on Bishop Kenny, we've actually looked at having periods where we film and we bring TVs out on the field. And after certain periods where we're trying to move fast and we're trying to coach up tempo and instead of waiting for meetings or afterwards, we may have 10-minute periods on the field where we watch the previous period and we make our corrections there. So, I think so many great technology is so great. And there's a lot of things that are going on in football that make it so much better than it used to be, at least from the coaching standpoint. But yeah, we were always coach fast as hell, play fast as hell. Yes, Austin, that was back in the heyday. We didn't have, when I was playing, we didn't have sideline replay. So if you want to go back another 20 years, we weren't watching replays on the sideline. So you guys were kind of blessed and with all the film you had, and we were putting VHS tapes in, and you guys are going online. So everything has its pluses and its minuses. But yes, we're now in a world with mobile TVs and setting up stations where you can watch things outside and coaches can be mic'd up and sound systems. We play music at every single practice we have now at Bishop Kenny. So football's changed, the world's changed, practice has changed. And as a coach, you either adapt and evolve with it or you just get left behind. So, from the standpoint of practicing fast and getting your coaches to understand how to practice fast, and we're not going to stop unless we absolutely have to. You're going to have to coach on the fly. The biggest thing to me, especially with like old school coaches, and I've coached with a bunch of really good ones, they have to be comfortable with a kid that may be looking at a signal while trying to listen to you make corrections. Because the big thing with the old timers is eye contact. You got to listen to me while I'm talking to you, and you got to look at me so I know you're listening. And in today's world, coaching at that pace, that's almost impossible. Like I'm trying to coach one kid, give a signal, and that kid's trying to see the formation. Like I coached the middle safeties this year. They're responsible for setting coverages to formations. And he's trying to listen to me, tell him what to do, but at the same time, get a call and make the next coverage adjustment. So that's something I think you need to get used to, is you need to understand that it's a different method of coaching. That kid's going to have to learn to listen while not looking at you. And you're going to have to learn to talk to him while he's not looking at you and understand, or he's got to either give you some type of, physical cues that he's listening, nod his head, whatever it may be. Because if he's got his face mask facing the other way and I'm talking to his back, I need to know that he's listening. But it's not, the kid's not being disrespectful. He's just going, hey, coach, you're trying to play fast. You need me to get a signal and see a formation. I can't look at you and do all that, right? So teaching your coaches and teaching your players how you want to operate. One of the best things we did, and I mentioned this today, and this is probably 10, 12 years ago, maybe somewhere along those lines. We went to a system where we didn't travel safeties anymore. We left safeties on one side of the defense. We didn't go strong and weak. We didn't go field boundary. We went left and right. And what we did was we taught them how to play to the passing strength and how to play away. And we taught them run fits being down as the 8th guy in the box and what they're doing when they're on a hash mark. We taught them how to play up and back, high and low. And in the video today, I mentioned it. When I first started doing that, people were like, no, you can't do that. You need a strong side and a weak side. You need a field guy and a boundary guy. You need a strength guy and a weak side, however you want to break the terminology down. And the first year that we were playing split field 4-2-5 stuff, I was traveling my nickel and trying to travel my Mike and my Will. And we got into a situation where teams would line up and then they would shift trade motion and do things and get us with formation into the boundary. And about 2 games into the season, my weak safety came over and he said, Coach, I've never been on the 3-by-1 side. When they shift or trade and get into 3-by-1 on my side, there's only one thing we can play. And as mad as I was at the time, I kind of looked at the kid and I said, you know what? You're right. You've never been like anything we do in practice. You're to the away side. You're never to the 3-by-1 side. And now they're shifting and putting the tight end over there. And I've never taught you how to play the down part of quarters. I've never taught you how to play anything but the adjustment that you can make, which was 3 deep at that time, right? So formation into the boundary, we were 3 deep. Well, you give a team enough films, you give a team enough time, they know that if they go FIB, you're 3 deep. Well, what kind of world is that to live in, in today's game? And how do you want to live as a defense to know that if they present that picture, the offensive coordinator knows exactly what you're in? So that following year in the offseason, I said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to play field boundary strong weak. We're going to play left, right. And our safeties are going to be taught through the offseason, through the summer. They're going to be taught how to be passing strength guys and away from passing strength guys. And when I listed out the pluses and minuses, the positives, negatives, I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm going to have to teach them more coverages, right? But I don't have to teach them how to move, and I don't have to teach them, to recognize passing strength and not passing strength. And I go to it, I go away from it, I travel, I go. So one solution is never a good deal. But the theory was I'm going to put the ball in my court. And, even going back to the days when some of these guys that are on here now were playing for me, we always had relatively smart players. We had kids that wanted to practice hard. They wanted to play in a game plan back when I was at Ridgeview way back in the day and I first started. We may have never been the most talented team, but we had kids that loved the game plan. We have kids that love watching film. And we could do some things with those guys because they were into it. They actually liked the game of football, not just running around and hitting people, but and they knew very early on. And I explained to them very early on, listen, guys, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but we are going to have to do more if we want to win, because when we get off the bus, we're not as good as the other teams we're playing. And, that doesn't mean as a head coach, I'm trying to be negative. I'm trying to, I would get off the bus with those guys every day of the week. And regardless of win, loss, whatever, I would show up again the next week and get off the bus with the same group of guys. But you got to realize when we get off the bus, we're not the same. So how we play is going to have to be a different brand of football. And we're going to have to do more things inside of a game plan because we don't match up physically. So those guys bought into that. They liked it. They liked game planning. They liked film. So it was easy. It was easier to do at that point in my career. And I've had some programs where we were more talented, but kids didn't care about a game plan. They didn't, coach, I just want to run. I want to catch a ball. I want to run the ball. So every program is different. Every group of kids you get is different, but it got to a point where I just looked at it and I said, okay, let's weigh the positives and the negatives, and let's weigh the good and the bad. And all right, so if I teach them how to play both sides, I've got to teach them a few extra concepts. Okay. If I don't teach them how to play both sides, they got to move all over the place to get lined up. Teams start playing faster. We can't get lined up. And then if we're field boundary, we got to play certain checks with FIB, right? So when I thought about it, and as a head coach, it was easy for me to do. I'm going to make the decision, right? I didn't have to win an argument. I didn't have to approach, like right now, if I wanted to make any type of systemic change, I would have to justify it to the head coach, right? He's the big whistle. His name's in the paper. Ultimately, at the end of the day, yes, we're a program and a team, and I work at a great place where my head coach is always going to listen, but I would have to sell and win the argument. I would have to present it in a manner that I have to have all these things correct because I need to win the argument. Well, when I was a head coach, I would just say, is this what's best for us? Yes or no? And so at that time, a lot of people said, don't do it. You can't do it. We ended up doing it, right? And that following year, we were very, very good. And my safeties were very similar in nature. My safeties were one guy was a little bit better fit and runs than the other guy, but neither one of them were really scared per se. They were both adequate on a hash mark, but neither one of them was outstanding on a hash mark. So playing them up and back, high and low, passing strength away, it really wasn't that big of a deal. And, from the offensive standpoint, when I was, and I always was, like I said, been no huddle for 20 years and tempo or hurry up no huddle for 15 or 14 of those. I was always looking for hybrid players on offense. Give me that one guy that can be in the slot, but if I line him up in line, he can block. If he's the wrap guy on counter, he's good. He's physical. He's tough. I was always looking for that on offense. So why can't I look for it on defense? Why can't I find a kid that's a Sam linebacker that can be walked out, apexed in space, but can also play in the box? Why can't I find that guy? Why can't I find a will linebacker that's an in-the-box player, but if I need him to bump out and play palms, or I need him to play certain coverages in 3-by-1, he can do that, right? We do it on offense. We try to limit substitutions when we're playing fast, which means guys got to have multiple roles. They got to be hybrid players. Well, if we can do it on offense, why can't we do it on defense, right? That was always, and for me, that was always a struggle, because a lot of guys would say, no, we can't do that. That's not how it's done. That's not how it's been done. Well, if you ever want anything to change, if you ever want anything to evolve, you've got to be willing to do some things that you haven't done before. And you've got to be willing to take some risks, right? And that's one of the things with, your own self-confidence, your own self-esteem. When you're willing to take on new challenges and new risks, and, you're willing to fail, or you're willing to endure setbacks, that's how you grow. That's a growth mindset, right? That's fixed mindset would be, no, this is what we do. I'm scared to take chances because nobody's ever done that. And the people that I talked to said it shouldn't be done, or you can't do it. Well, no, the growth mindset is, hey, I'm gonna put myself out on a limb. I'm gonna take these chances. And in saying that, it's not like there was nothing we did that was unsound. There was nothing that we did. I never put a will linebacker out there and asked him in 3-by-1 to match 2 vertical. All right. We limited our checks. We knew the guys that we had in certain positions that could do certain things. And then we based all of our coverages and our defense around all those things. So, to me, it's the willingness to want to teach more. It's the willingness to have to rep more in practice to understand. Like, we started our first day of 7-on-7 stuff today after workouts. And, the first thing we did in half line is I told those guys, I said, look, you're all going to play the 3 drop of palms. You're all going to play the palms or apex drop and palms. Corners and safeties, you're going to play the corner spot and the safety spot. We're going to learn how to match all these patterns from every position. Will you ever have to play those in a game? I don't know. Will my corners ever be high on a hash mark? Probably not. But we're going to teach it to everybody in the offseason while we have a chance to experiment and work on techniques and fundamentals and our pattern match deals. Everybody's going to learn how to play all of it. And there's going to be 2 things that are going to happen. All right. You're going to be able to be in more positions on the field when the other team is not changing personnel and they're putting you in precarious positions. You're going to be able to handle that. And the second thing is you're going to learn more about our pattern matches, because you're going to figure out how the other guy that's involved has to see it and play it based on how you're playing it at your original position, right? So if I put a corner on the hash mark and tell him that he's got to match or play 2 read off of number 2, he's got the inverse rules of what he would do at corner. So if he knows at corner 2 out is going to be him and the safety's got to work to 1, well, then at safety, he should know if 2's out, he's got to work to 1, right? So what it'll end up doing in the long run is it'll get guys to understand how their partner sees, reacts, thinks in the pattern match. It'll get them to understand how the whole thing pieces together. Where's my buddy? What's his responsibility, right? And if we ever got into a bind where, for whatever reason, we needed to play a certain guy, now it's same as teaching. You can just tell them, hey, you're the palms dropper, right? So if we play 3-by-1 and we play what we call mix, some people call it mini, big wigs call it stubby, right? We're going to have 2 safeties playing palms off 2 and 3. And we're going to have a Sam or a backer as the apex guy. And he's playing his palms rules off the back because we're playing man-to-man on number 1. So you can eliminate number 1 from the pattern match. And now there's just 2 receivers and a back left, right? So if we handle 2 receivers and a back every day in palms or 2 read, then in 3-by-1, it shouldn't be an issue. So if I teach my Will, who has to play the apex part, the 2-3 match, the 2 doesn't cross my face, 3 doesn't out leverage me, curl push, whatever you want to look, however you want to look at, curl push, hook push, however you want to look at it. Well, now if he's on the 3-by-1 side and I give him the same job, even though the coverage is called differently, it's the same job for him. Well, then why can't he be on the 3-by-1 side? Yes, we have to talk about run fits. Yes, we have to talk about if he's outside the box, is he now reading tackle to triangle, and because he's used to being inside the box and maybe reading under keys, guards, backfield flow, right? So yes, there's more teaching, there's more reps, but that's our job, right? So in 7-on-7 right now, my job is to take all this time in the offseason with no pads and create drills where I can teach in a fashion that makes it multiple same as for a lot of players, putting them in different positions, making them a little bit uncomfortable, and teaching them how everything fits inside the coverage. By doing that, what I'm also doing, especially at the underneath level, is I'm creating hybrid players. I'm telling the Will that you may have to do this so that now if teams start playing really, really up-tempo, hurry up, no huddle, and I decide that I'm not moving to Sam and the Will, you stay right here, and after every play, you get your ass back to here. You get a signal from the sideline. You recognize the formation. The safety's behind you, call the coverage, and the Will can be 3-by-1. He can be to the passing strength. And the Sam can play in the box, and he can understand cut coverages to the single side or what he needs to do to the single side because we've repped it. I've taught you. I've done all those things in practice, right? Now, let's take this back a couple minutes or a year per se. When I first got to my new job in January of last year, when we started 7-on-7, we played Palms to Read for a month. We never changed leverage. We never changed coverage. We played that for a month, and we taught it inside and out because it was brand new. Now, they played it before, but they never played it the way I want to play it. So the teaching is different. The concept's the same, but my buzzwords are different. How I teach it is different. So I had to teach coaches and players. So we stayed in that for a month, okay? Well, today, the first day we went out there, we played Palms for 10 minutes, and then we played quarters for 10 minutes. We put the Sam outside, and I'm talking to returning players that have been in the system for over a year now and had great success last season, 8-2, district champs, lost in the first round of the playoffs, but beat a team that we hadn't beaten in 45 years. So we played really good defense, and we have returning players. So we're going to turn it up a notch. Why? Because that's where we are in our program. Take it back a year when I first got there, we did everything base, and we did everything by the book for a month straight before we ever got out of it, right? So where you are in your program, where you are as a coach, where your players are, how much knowledge they have, that's always going to dictate what you do, right? So I don't want to be remiss in not mentioning the fact that we don't throw all these things at players all at once, right? So a lot of comments I get on the channel are, hey, coach, the name of the brand is Play Fast Football, but how can you play fast when you do all these things? Well, as a content creator, just because I'm doing a video doesn't mean I carry everything into a game plan, right? So if I do 3 defensive videos in a week and I've got topics that are all over the map, that doesn't mean I'm carrying them in my game plan, right? I'm making YouTube videos. I have 480-something YouTube videos over the course of 10 years. The game of football changes, it evolves, but how many videos can you possibly make in a game of football without, saying that this is all we do? So I always have to explain to people, just because you see me do a video doesn't mean I carry all those things into a game plan, right? So yes, Play Fast is the brand. Yes, that's the mentality with our players. No, I don't carry all those things into a game plan, right? So if I give you 4 options to play to the single receiver side, there's times where we only play one of those 4 options on the single side based on who he is, who we are, how smart we are, how many years do we have in the system. So just because I give you 4 options to the single side doesn't mean I carry them every week, right? That's always, for me, one of the misnomers or one of the kind of things that gets blown out of proportion is, coach, play fast. How do you play fast when you do all this stuff? A video doesn't mean we do it all, right? I've got to come up with content. I've got to create content. I've got to make different videos. 10 years, 480 videos. How many different ways can you do it to create content, right? That's the hardest part. So, again, if we were a tempo offense, and when I listen to Alex Golish and Lane Kiffin and all those guys, the first thing they talk about, operating procedure, communication, how we practice, getting the ball, the ball carrier's got to get the ball to the nearest official, and college guys have officials there every day. We don't want to throw the ball to him because he'll drop it. We've got to get it to him. It's nearest official. If we're on the sideline, he gets it to the line judge, whatever it may be. So they're always talking about all those things that they do to play as fast as they possibly can, right? Well, what are we doing on defense? It really shouldn't be any different. What are we doing on defense to build a tempo defense? What are we doing on defense to prepare for that? So Why don't we should be working on our operating procedure every day, our communication every day, building hybrid players, getting to a point where we don't have to move sides. Because what's the offense going to do? They're going to come out in a formation and they're probably going to stay in it. And there's one or two guys that are going to move. Tailback, H, Y, slot, sniffer, whatever it is. The receivers generally stay where they are, and that's how they play so fast, right? The right receiver never has to be over on the left side. All right. If they run a concept that brings maybe a slot receiver across the field, the next formation is probably going to be a formation with the slot lined up on the right so he doesn't have to run all the way back. That's how they play fast. That's how they do the things that they need to do. So why can't we do that on defense? Why can't I teach my will linebacker, look, after the play's over, here's where the ball's going to be set, right? Teach your kids, and don't think that they know this or assume. Teach them where's the ball going to be set after a 6-yard run that went out of bounds? Where's it going to be set on an 8-yard run up the middle? Where's it going to be set on an incomplete pass? What happens if we sack the quarterback? Get them used to, hey, guys, the play change. Where's the ball going to be set? Get your ass to where the ball's going to be set. Hey, the will, I don't ever need you on the left. You stay on the right. Get to where the ball's going to be set on the right. Get your eyes to me. Get a call, right? Those are the things that we're trying to do. Teaching jobs and the coverage was huge. Same as or copy paste jobs allow us to have flexibility. Yeah, 100%, Zach. When you're doing that, when same as on, I don't care if it's special teams, offense, defense. Anytime you can make something same as, now you can be more multiple, right? So offensive, what are we usually trying to do? Same as, change the presentation, right? Different formation, motions, trades, but we want to run the same plays. We don't want to create new all the time for our offense because then we've got to teach new. They've got to learn new. We want to be different, right? But we want to have same as jobs, same as rules. And that's when you're talking about hybrid players, cross-training players, you want to make everything same as possible. When you're looking at your teaching, your pedagogy, your communication, your buzzwords, how can I make these coverages about as same as possible? How can I tell this kid, hey, you know how you play in Palms? Well, in mix, you're playing the same thing. You're just doing it off of these three, not those three, right? So anytime you can carry same as, I think it's going to benefit you. Aranda wizard package, it allows the pressure to be based on the formation. Sounds great against tempo. Yeah. The wizard stuff that I looked at from Wisconsin, I thought was a base defense deal for them. How they played their quarter stuff from their odd front. As far as a pressure deal, usually what you end up getting in the tempo world is we're going to pressure the back. So wherever the back is, if he's over here, it's wizard. If he's over here, it's Washington. If you're using like mascots teams or whatever, if he's on this side, it's New York. If he's on that side, it's Yankees. If he's on this side, it's the Mike and the Will. If he's on this side, it's the Mike and the Sam. Blitz formation stuff has been around forever. Pretty good deal against tempo teams. If you want to say, look, we want to blitz the single side, we want to blitz the back, we want to blitz whatever. I think you need to carry those things. One of the best things that helped us, and it's not blitz the formation, but especially when we're balanced, when we were like doing some 3-4 stuff, we would have left side blitzes, right side blitzes that came up the middle. And now it didn't matter what happened. The left side blitz was, so if I had the Sam on the left, the Mike on, the Mike and the Will on the right, and, I wanted to run America's pressure from the left, I'd call it Seminole. But if I wanted to run it from the right, I'd call it Gator. Well, now the left end knew when it was Seminole, he's got a long stick. When it was Gator, he's got to be the contained player. And the right end knew that when it was Gator, long stick, when it was Seminole, contained. The Mike blitzed either way. When it was Gator, the Will was on the right, so he was coming. When it was Seminole, it was from the left. It was the same blitz. It was America's pressure from the right, America's pressure from the left. And then if I wanted to call it from the field, where's the ball set? Field's to the left. It's Seminole, right? So I've done that before also. I've had, and again, that is what some people would call rigid, basic, if you want to look at it that way. But I call it good football. We're lined up. We're in the 3-4. We're balanced. Here's a blitz from the field. Here's a blitz from the boundary. How do you know it's field or boundary? I know where the ball's set. Left, Seminole, right, Gator. Right? The kids, it's got an R, that's got an L. Let's rock and roll. We know what we're doing. So, it's all in the eyes of the beholder, and what you think is multiple, I think is basic. What you think is basic, I think can be multiple. So, just one of those things that I've done in the past. And then I'd have Will and Mike blitzes on the interior, and we knew that those blitzes were coming from the interior of the defense, right? So, and something that I talked about today in building a tempo defense and defending tempo offenses is I think you have to have a system of movements, pressures, and rotations in the secondary that are also simplistic. One word calls. The way we do things on our defense is almost everything we do is a one word call. Until I build in checks, everything we do, our base defense is a one word call. It's that front, middle safety, play off a three remove, we play this, three tight, we play this, tight end flanker, two remove. So it's a kind of a check with me defense. We've been that way for a long time. So, that's our base defense to begin with. And then our pressures are one word press. So our 5-man's 3 under 3 deep are one word. Our 5-man's 4 under 2 deep are one word. Man free, one word. 6-man hot, one word. 6-man 0, one word. Peel pressures, one word. We group them into families. That's what we do. So you can find plenty of ways to communicate with your kids to keep things that simple. So at any time versus a tempo team with one signal, I can send 5, 6. I can be 3 under 3 deep. I can be 4 under 2 deep. I can be man free. I can be hot pressure sending 6. I can be 0 sending 6. They're all one signal, one word, done. That's how we communicate. That's how we operate. So that's how we do things and broken up into families and how we the verbiage that we use with our players. So it's most certainly possible. And I think when it comes down to defending tempo offenses, you better be able to be as multiple as possible while keeping your communication streamlined, right? Because that's, at the end of the day, they're trying to create chaos and we're trying to avoid chaos, right? So it's one of those deals where how do you build your system, right? So you better be able to move. You can't stay static. You better be able to rotate because you can't give them the same picture. You better be able to have some adjustments to how you play 2 remove, 3-by-1, because give them the same picture and they know that's the picture. They're going to rip plays 100 miles an hour. You won't have a chance, right? How multiple can you be within your system to understand how we can make one call and get things changed? You have to be able to pressure tempo teams. If you can't get pressures called and you can't get lined up to run them. So if your pressures are always coming from the back or coming from here and they're multiple checks, I don't know if that's the way you want to live in the tempo world. Yes, the back will get set. Yes, you can usually call it. I think personally, when you get into that world, you better have some field deals, some boundary deals, some inside deals, and things that you can get signaled in really quick. And you say, all right, look, we're bringing it from the field. Their tendency is on this down and distance, field-based team. Well, shit, the back's over there. Let's check it. I don't know if that's the world you want to live in. To be honest with you, if you look at the defenses that have been really good over the last 10, 15 years, it's the tempo teams that drive them nuts. Why do they drive them nuts? Because those defenses that are really good normally try to match every single scenario humanly possible with a personnel group and a call. They want to be in the right call every single time. Well, in the world I live in high school football, I would rather know that we're lined up and pressuring from the field and everybody knows exactly what they're doing than say, hey, I need to be in this blitz right now and risk possibly not getting it called right or not aligning right. That's just, again, philosophically, my take. I would rather blitz from the field. I would rather blitz from the boundary. I would rather blitz from the inside. If we play a team that slows down and we want to blitz the formation, so be it, right? Again, blitz the formation is a very, very good philosophy. People do it all over the country at every level of football. Not saying it's bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. If teams are ripping the tempo and you're trying to get your blitzes in to be checked, that could become an issue is what I'm saying. A field blitz that everybody knows the ball's on the left hash, I can call a field blitz before they call their play. That's just my philosophy, how I look at things. Everything we're doing on both sides of the ball, why can't we do it? If we do it on offense, we should be able to do it on defense. If we use this manner of playing football on offense, there's nothing wrong with using the same thing on defense. It goes back to the complementary football days. Well, when we're spread, we don't give our defense enough run packages. Well, to me, that's bullshit nowadays. Spread teams, tempo teams, they're all vertical run teams, right? Tennessee this year with what they did, flavor of the month, everybody wants to do it. They're a vertical run team, all right? They are a downhill run team. Yes, they have perimeter runs, but there is nothing soft about what they do. Ole Miss, I think, led outside of option schools. They led the nation in rushing. There's nothing soft about what they do. So the misnomer that if you're a spread team, you don't prepare your defense for physical runs is bullshit. Now, do you prepare them for inline tight ends? Different argument. Do you prepare them for 12 personnel? Different argument. Do you prepare them to be soft? Bullshit. All right. Spread teams that are tempo teams, most of them are vertical run teams that run the ball extremely well. And that prepares your defense to defend power, defend counter, gap schemes, zone schemes, option schemes, right? So that's an old school deal that I don't believe, you got to play complementary football. We got to do something that prepares our defense. I don't buy that at all. Spread teams, 100% run the ball physically, 100% use gap schemes. I think you can get perfectly prepared for downhill runs and be physical. Tight ends, 21, 22, 12, little bit different animal because of the alignment and coverages that we're going to have to play. But it's not a physicality deal. It's not a, hey, we can't play those runs because our offense is spread. Don't buy it. Never bought it. Maybe Air Raid that throws it 60 times, different world, never lived in that world. That maybe I can agree with. But if you look at today's game and teams that are quote unquote spread, which I don't even know what spread means, to be honest with you. I don't know if formationally it means that everything's spread out. I don't know if spread is an offense like that. That's just to me. If you had to label Tennessee, their tempo, vertical run, vertical choice passing game, that's what they are. Spread, I don't know what that means. So, to me, that's always been a little bit of a misnomer that you can't be physical on defense if you play this kind of offense. No, I think you can. And I think the hybrid 2011 world, yes, Philly, I think is the order of the day, flavor of the month, the way the world's going right now. And here's the reason, in my opinion, if I have that one guy that can get me into 2011, 10, that's the world I'm going to live in. 12, different animal. If you can find two slots that can be 10, 3x1 open, and 12, now you're in business. That is a great world to be in because that is, to me, the biggest bitch on defense. So this guy's going to line up out here and be effective, and then he's going to line up in here and block the shit out of people. Different, okay? The team we played in the playoffs ran all their under center and wing T-ish philosophies with the same guys that they did when they were shotgun spread read game. Pain in the ass. Big time pain in the ass. There is no personnel adjustments. There's nothing that you can look at and go, hey, when they bring these guys in, we got to bring these guys in. Hey, when they're in, it's under center wing T. When they're in, it's shotgun spread. If you can do that on offense, more power to you because that is, to me, hybrid, multiple. You're doing everything from the same personnel group, right? So, again, that's the best way to play tempo football. If you got one guy that you can move to be a tight end, a sniffer, a slot, 3x1, if you can do that with the same personnel, now you're really presenting a big time issue for the defense because that one guy that they're moving doesn't take him long to get a signal and move, but he's presenting 8 different pictures for the defense. Well, how are we going to defend 8 different pictures? Are we trying to match him? Are we trying to match strength? Are we trying to match passing strength? They're lining up easy. We got to react to what they're doing. So to me, it's more about the operating procedure, what we're creating, the hybrid positions on defense. And then again, like I mentioned in the video today, by no means did I create anything. By no means did I start anything. But 3 years after we were doing what we're doing, I start reading all these things about hybrid defensive players. Well, I never called them hybrids. I just said we cross-trained, right? So again, I didn't create it. I didn't come up with it. But 2 or 3 years after we were told, that's not the way you should do it. You need to be field. You need to be boundary. Well, all of a sudden, Army almost beats Oklahoma. Jay Bateman is the flavor of the week, and everything is hybrid-based. He teaches these guys to be blitzers and droppers and these guys to be in the box and out of the box. And all of a sudden, it became like the newest thing and the neatest thing for everybody. Yeah, because one group was able to defend a bunch of different things. Now, when it comes to the personnel matchups, yeah, my nickel safety is not going to be as good in the run game versus an inline tight end as a Sam linebacker. Totally get it, right? If they're 21 personnel and I don't want to play with that group, well, then I need to make changes. But if they play in a world where they are all over the place and they are multiple, well, if they're multiple, I need to be multiple. How can I be multiple? I got to teach hybrid players. I got to find a Sam that's good enough to run and be in coverage, but he's physical enough to be in the box, or he's physical enough to set the edge. That's my job. Now, I can't recruit like colleges can, but I can still find guys that I like and work with them in the offseason and work with them in the weight room and say, all right, look, this is what we need you to do. Great player. You move great. You're physical as hell. I need you to try and get bigger and stronger so that you can be at the point of attack, right? That is easy to do. So, again, wanted to get on here today and talk a little bit about tempo offense, tempo defense. If you haven't checked out the last couple videos that I did one on tempo offense, talking about what I learned at the Nike Clinic. And then today I did one on what I think we should be doing with tempo defense. I wish I could stay longer. I cannot stay longer tonight, but I wanted to jump on. I wanted to do this at least once a week in the off season, get on here and talk with you guys. I love the interaction. Thanks for being here tonight. Wish I could stay longer, but I have some other obligations that I have to get to. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate everything you do for PlayFast. Appreciate the comments. All my former players, love you to death. Thanks for being on tonight. Zach, if you want to get back into coaching, we'd love to have you. Thanks for everything that you guys do. There will be another one next week, so look for it. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. It's been a blast tonight. Thank you for everything you guys do for me, for PlayFast, the game of football, kids, and I will see you guys next time.